Crown lawyers have still not decided whether to bring criminal charges 3 months after footage captured shocking violence at Manchester Airport. So let's have a chat to former Scotland Yard Chief Mike Neville.
No, it doesn't say that at all. So before we do that, have we got that clip I can show of what happened at Manchester Airport, and maybe everybody forgot about it, just before we talk to Mike?
Yeah.
Just to remind everybody, look at this. There we are. This is Manchester Airport. Armed police have collared some people there. They want to question them. They want to talk to them about what they've been up to, what they've been doing. It kicks off. The police don't start it. It kicks off. The main news story after this was that a policeman kicked somebody in the head who was down.
And they broke a policewoman's nose.
If you actually watch it, it was more of a sort of kick and then stop.
And they can only use their legs as firearms police. They can only use their legs.
Yeah, but the policewoman was hurt very badly.
They were all had to go to hospital. They
all had different lawyers. It was all a mess.
And then it was leaked, and the police tried to, instead of going on it, they tried to find the people who leaked.
Yeah, the first lawyer dropped them, another one came in, and they're still free and walking the streets. They're not on bail.
The police have passed on the file to the CPS, but there seems to be a delay in the former Prime Minister's DPP.
You know, there apparently isn't any video footage to help that out.
Well, there is. We saw it. They didn't like that it got leaked, and they tried to find the people that leaked it disgracefully.
Mike, welcome to the programme. Good to talk to you, former Scotland Yard Chief Inspector. What do you think is behind this? Is it just that they're embarrassed they made a cock-up at the beginning?
Well, it's very hard to see why the delay is, James. Detective Chief Inspector, if you don't mind. But
oh, sorry, sorry. Detective
very
Chief.
Important stuff.
Can I just say, whoever is writing these out, listen to what Mike said, and you'll stay in after the programme. Sorry,
which was a line from the Sweeney. But the thing is with this, my expertise was actually catching criminals with CCTV and images.
Yeah.
And of course, the CCTV from this incident is very, very clear, and you have the body-worn footage as well from the officers. So you haven't got like several accounts that you've got to check. You've actually got a film of what goes on. So the violence from the two men, particularly the one who took out two female officers with two punches, is quite incredible. And I can't imagine any of us here, you know, attacking going to France or Germany and attacking a armed officer at an airport, because you think you'd be shot. Now, whether the officer was right or wrong, it's very, in my view, kicking people in the head is an unwise move and doesn't help the situation at all. However, those matters can be dealt with by discipline or other action. But it's no 16 weeks since this incident. It is completely unacceptable there's been no charges. And of course, what this does, it simply plays into the situation that there is two-tier policing. That if you're a sort of white working class yobbo, let's say, who goes to Southport and causes some trouble, you will be swiftly arrested and dealt with if you put something
and quite rightly
stupid and vile. Yes, if you
but it should be equal for everyone
on Facebook. You'll go to jail for like 2 years.
Ridiculous.
And then people see this, and what's happening, I think, James, is that these sort of incidents, they just ebb away at the trust and confidence that people have in the establishment and the criminal justice system, and it just says that certain people are treated differently. And this is not the way that it should be in Britain.
But they've already passed the file to the CPS, so this is the CPS dragging their heels that Keir Starmer used to be the head of. So what's your views on all that?
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw with the ridiculous thing with the Southport case, for example, is that the police were taking CPS advice on what they could say to the press, which I found very odd, because the police are independent. They've got their own press office, and it smacks of political interference in my view. But it is all so damaging that the British police and the criminal justice system in this country used to be seen as the example, the shining example for the world. And it's just not, is it?
Is it, Mike, because the videos are regularly shown that they feel that these two people wouldn't get a fair trial, and they're not sure how to how to get around that. Is that what they're thinking?
Because those videos would be shown in the court. They are crucial evidence. And we have several cases where we see, videos of somebody, do you know this man? I used to go on the TV and say...
We're losing every other word at the moment. We'll struggle on. Let me just change. This, to my mind, is absolutely appalling and disgusting that these people have been allowed to assault the police. We've lost him. We'll try and get him back. OK. We've got time now to squeeze a couple of calls in while we do that, or we'll just try and get him back on a better line. I put it all down to the sunspots,
Yeah, it probably is.
I think that there's been an enormous amount of sunspot activity.
There has. I mean, it's going to be freezing as well in the next few days. But make sure you put... He's back.
He's
Mike
back.
Neville.
I'm back.
Detective Chief Superintendent.
I've moved house and it's a struggle without Wi-Fi, so my apologies.
The door was stopping the Wi-Fi.
You had to open the door to let the Wi-Fi out.
Listen, I've heard a rumour, I don't know if you know anything about this, but apparently there's nobody wanting to join the Metropolitan Police at the moment. They can't get anybody who wants to become a recruit. Is that right?
Well, I heard that there were in September last year, there was something like, or September this year, there was something like 6 recruits. When I went there in '89, every month there was 120 recruits joining up, and it's absolutely shocking because being a police officer is a great career. We used to be one of the people were really, they'd be rejecting people. Now they're just so desperate. But what is happening, it's a bit like the armed forces. They're too busy picking people because they're not white and working class and male, that they fail to recruit the people who would be their potentially best people. They're so obsessed with this diversity issue that they don't recruit those who really want to join.
And they got rid of... I remember about 15 years ago, they got rid of people like you, very experienced because they didn't fit the mould and they were more expensive, and they got rid of all that experience when they were just 50-odd or something.
Well, I agree, and they used to tell me I was a dinosaur, but I've said this before, that I was an arrestosaurus because I actually arrested criminals.
They don't like that.
We need a few more arrestosauruses rolling around.
Why do such wet wallies become chief constables? I better be careful.
Because you have to toe the line, don't you?
I'm gonna get arrested before long. They're gonna come knocking on the studio door.
So James, when I joined the Met, I joined from the army, which was used to be the standard thing. Now hardly anybody does that. And when I joined, about half the senior officers of the top 40, half of them were ex-army, just like me, grammar school boys, been in the army. But I rapidly realised, and within about 4 or 5 years, there was an article in the Police Review magazine saying they don't want characters anymore. If you remember, people like James Anderson up in Manchester, he has come out with all sorts of statements, but he was very much loved by the local community. But so what you have now, you have almost like, if you remember those films from the 90s or 80s, like Revenge of the Nerds, it's boring, characterless students who've taken over, who almost have a USB socket somewhere in their backside where they can just download the latest policies. So anybody who's got any character is just passed aside. And what you have now is that there are no ex-military chief constables or senior officers at the yard. There's no one who's got much personality, and they're all committed to the same left-wing policies.
It's a bit like politicians, they just go straight... I went to school with Sir Mark Rowley. He's a former grammar school boy, but I think he just joined the police and climbed up through there, so they don't actually have, like you said, a military experience and stuff. What do you think of Sir Mark Rowley, by the way? He's a politician, isn't he?
On a personal level, he was always quite polite. He's
a fellow Whirly man.
But what you have, though, is he was an assistant commissioner when the Met started going wrong. And now then they appointed him as the commissioner. Now, if a football team's going wrong, you don't appoint the sort of second team manager as the manager. When they've been relegated and stuff, you look for somebody different. And if you look at the Met, there's 8 categories that the Home Office or the Magistrate Inspectors of a Constabulary inspect you for. Things like investigating crime, responding to 999, dealing with the public. Of those 8, the Met were judged to be inadequate in 7 of them. Now, If that was me, you would commit Harry-Carry, wouldn't you? Say, well, no, I've got to go.
But is it because he's under Sadiq Khan, who's the Commissioner for the Police in London, and we know what he's like? Is it because he'll lose his job if he doesn't toe the line?
Well, I imagine that's... The trouble is that they live in an echo chamber. So when they come out with... So the Met published the latest race action plan. And there's a big
which is racist in itself.
Yeah, there's a big problem with young black men commit a lot of crime. The police can't help that. I did some research into, and they always said the police are racist. Well, the police are racist. They pick on the most easy target. Now, the most easy target would be elderly Asian ladies. Elderly Asian ladies, because if it would be compliant and they can't fight back, they hardly get stopped and searched at all. When you look at people over 60 are 1% of who get stopped and searched, whether you're black or white. So the police can only focus on who is causing trouble at the time, and they're constantly condemned. And all they ever produce is another race action plan. What about being honest and saying, this is a problem, we can't carry on?
You're absolutely right.
It's mainly black kids that end up getting killed and murdered as well.
It's absolutely, they're the victims.
It needs, stop and search is probably the best deterrent to criminals on the street. Probably the best deterrent. And we pussyfoot around. Can you say that?
Well, heavy prison sentences is probably...
you can't say pussy anymore?
You can't say pussy, you can say foot.
We foot around. We cat around. Oh, ridiculous. Life's become so stupid, Mike. You have to worry about what words you use.
No, they come for you.
They come for you.
Can I just say about Mark Neville? He has been quite vociferous about defending the sergeant, who's now an inspector, who was accused of murdering Chris Cabot. And that ridiculous trial, an absolute scandal.
It was a show trial, wasn't it? They didn't want to release him straight away, I think.
That's a good phrase, show trial. It was actually that. And Mark Rowley has been very good in defending the officer. But the whole system there, again, that's the CPS again. It's just simpler. Who would want, if you're in the police now, who would want to carry a firearm? You stop and search people, you're accused of racism, you could lose your job. You shoot the wrong person, you shoot a black person rather than a white person, you could be charged with murder and go to jail and be kept in prison for the rest of your life. If you drive a car fast because you've got to get to a terrorist incident, and the CPS will charge you with reckless driving.
Presumably,
madness.
Presumably as well, that police officer, let's not mention his name anymore, is going to have a very difficult life because the nutty terrorists,
but he's been promoted to inspector, hasn't he?
Yeah, but he's still going to have to well, we shouldn't have said that either.
Yeah, but what's your view?
But the 6'7" gang have put a 10 grand bounty on his life, and what's going to happen? There's the judge who released his name. He was told at the time by a senior officer, if you release his name, he's going to be in danger. And of course, the judge, he's clever. He thinks he knows better. And the fact that it's not just the officer. The officer's a man like me, as a bloke. You carry on, don't you? It's the wife, your children. How do they survive? That judge. What will happen to him? I'll tell you what will happen. Nothing, because he's part of the establishment. He's done something stupid, and lessons will be learned.
Maybe in 4 years they'll do something.
Thank you very much indeed, Mike. We'll talk again, I'm sure, about the state of our police